we now have a talk about AI and spirituality. Can you put your hands together for Anuraj Gambhir, bringing humanity to a state of enlightenment? Show him some love.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Daniela, the happiness queen. Well, the world is changing so fast that the person who says it can't be done is interrupted by the person already doing it. What you imagine, you can become, you can manifest. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a worldwide journey. I've got quite a few slides, but I'll be taking you through quite a range of different topics around conscious tech to mindful AI to awakened intelligence, as we're calling it. So we're going to first talk about the four industrial revolutions, and we're really talking about from mechanization to electrification to mass production, automation, and certainly what we're seeing in terms of how it's all coming together and unifying to a whole new level. So from what we're really seeing is also this whole aspect of how what we're saying the Industrial Revolution 5.0, which is all about humanity, actually, and how humanity and the intersection of everything in that regard comes together, where tech really is an enabler and intelligence is distributed, it's pervasive, it's all about connecting with consciousness and the realization about humanity first. So if I tell you, well, I think you would have seen in the short span of 13 years how horse and cart was replaced by the motor car. So we've similarly seen a very sort of exponential or on a logarithmic scale, basically, the growth of technology, which has moved from deceptive to disruptive and eventually being democratized. So we call them the 6Ds in Singularity University. I want to ask you something. So if I take you to take 31-meter strides, linear steps, you would have traveled 30 meters, right? And if I ask you to take 30 exponential steps on a logarithmic scale, does anybody want to have a guess? How much would you have traveled? 1 billion kilometers. Yeah, spot on. Exactly. So 26 times around the globe. So it's hard to comprehend, and that's why the point is about how do we really truly develop the exponential mindset for humanity. And I think we're seeing a whole range of exponential technologies out there, neurotech, robotics, AI, 3D, 4D printing, blockchain, quantum computing, and so forth. And the world is really going through an exponential and global sort of change. What we're seeing today is we're living in a VUCA world, We've really been seeing, and I think my dear friend Tom spoke earlier, if some of you heard him, about Game A. And, it's a volatile, uncertain, and complex and ambiguous world out there. So I wanted to touch into a domain that I've been focusing very much is in the health and wellness, the future of that space, and really seeing that healthcare is evolved from descriptive to diagnostic to predictive to prescriptive analytics. And what we're really seeing is moving from a Sickcare model to a WellCare model, to a proactive and a very, model that is really moving into what we talk about, where precision medicine, personalized healthcare, and so forth. And to that regard, there's a lot of wearables out there. In fact, been involved with this sort of space called Where to Able, how we can look at devices and tech, and really more conscious tech at the intersection of technology and humanity. And in fact, did a wearable tech fashion show at one stage to sort of showcase some of that conscious tech at our Singularity Youth Summits in Australia and Costa Rica. So we see everything from head to toe. We've got wrist-worn wearables and hearables and becoming disappearables, really, of different types. And then we've also had a fusion of exponential tech from full-body haptics, VR, wearables, exoskeletons. This is one's called the Tesla suit. We sort of announced them first time at our Singularity Youth Summit, 5 years ago? In fact, 7 years ago, 2018. Time flies very quickly. So we've seen a lot of that convergence happening, and this is where we've seen a lot of the AR, VR, mixed reality come together with this full-body haptic suit, with full biometrics, and we've also combined, an element of biometry, basically looking at full heart rate variability and multiple sort of biofeedback parameters coming together. So my remit has really been about this. My statement of purpose has been really how do we use exponential tech for the greater good and make solutions a lot more affordable. And as you can see here, it's all about how do we influence individuals' holistic well-being, health and wellness, and really bring happiness and transform people to lead a lot more meaningful lives. So, and I think many of you have heard, probably know of Ikigai. It's the MTP, as we call it, massively transforming purpose, or your BHAG. And we talk about moonshots, in fact, what I prefer to call also as Mars shots. So, we've been seeing AI develop from a whole range of areas, and I just wanted to sort of say, we've got conscious AI, and I'm not going to read some of the work. I'm going to sort of go through a little bit of rapid through because I've got a few slides, and I want to come to the crux, which is a bit later. So mindful AI, again, as you can see here, it's all about how does that alignment and how AI really, I try to refer to it as augmented intelligence. There's not too many things artificial about it, actually. And what we're really seeing is that whole element of how consciousness intersects and it comes together in a whole new way to bring the space how technology and artificial intelligence, as people are generally calling it, and I'm sure many of you've seen that exponential growth and using all the different LLM models like ChatGPT and so forth, and you've seen it sort of move into that realm of the natural user interface, as I call it. So it's becoming a lot more reachable out there and accessible. But the point is that, again, AI does hallucinate. It does have various areas which you need to monitor carefully. Again, it's what you put in. It's what you prime it with is what matters, right? And I think that's where we're really seeing this whole space evolve into this paradigm shifts of what AI is truly evolving into, and how we're going through that stage of enlightenment and aspects of sort of consciousness integration in there. And then we're also seeing, as you see, how quality, and it's not about quantity, it's all about how do you really feed in the most important sort of multimodal aspects to it so that it actually delivers what the promise is. And it's very much about humans plus AI in that regard. So, we're seeing that shift happen, and it's really about how the whole space of nature is also driving a lot of that innovation within this space. And well, like I said, the natural user interface being inspired by AI architectures of different types and looking at sustainability in that whole equation is playing a key role in there. So what we're seeing is also this whole space of how the brain-computer interface has also evolved, and conscious computing and pervasive computing and all these different factors have sort of come in that regard. And we're seeing more mindful elements, how we're really talking about that integration move to a new level. So I think it's all about the design and how we engage and what we can really create in terms of the digital integration around it, what truly matters. And what we're really seeing is that, yeah, it's all about the vision that we want to manifest through the right ethics, the right integration of well-being elements, and how we can bring that approach to integrate a lot more human-centric and flourishing-centric and positively priming ourselves. So we know that the wellness landscape is quite wide and large, and so is sort of the spirituality, and there's certainly that intersection happening. And what we're really seeing is, like with the conscious devices and tech, there's a lot of the stuff which was earlier seen as woo-woo has certainly been crossing the chasm in many regards. And there's a lot of scientific backing. We've done a lot of efficacy work in many of the areas, and we've seen tools like meditation, yoga, greatly proven already. And I'm sure many of you have seen the wonderful film that Tom has produced called The Portal, which clearly shows the benefits of meditation, because meditation is the best medication to all agitations, as I think one may say. So it's all about how do we truly look within us, and that's where the power truly lies, because the whole cosmos is in the universe lies truly within us, and how we evolve through each of the different intelligence levels, from physical, intellectual, emotional, and the spiritual quotients. And we've also seen, how the cosmic sort of the dance of Shiva, the Nataraj, and we've also seen this sort of. If some of you read the book called The Tao of Physics, it's all about how the quantum mechanics and Eastern mysticism sort of collide in so many interesting ways, and how that we talk about what has been discovered also at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in France and Switzerland, is experiments that have proven very clearly about the God particle, and what we've seen with the Higgs boson sort of research that has, in the interesting evidence that has been emerging and continually being evolving to whole new levels. So I wanted to touch on a great touch point I had, and I was very fortunate to spend some time with Steve Jobs back in the day. And in fact, the first time I met him was, again, totally through serendipity, synchronicity, as we're very much seeing here today. In fact, I just wanted to also commend Paul King, who's created this great event which you're at, who's, through synchronicity, has been getting the guidance, because today is the 100th birthday of his father, who's actually guided him to create this event. And it's also the 100th year of Horton Pavilion. So nothing is by chance. I think what we're all clearly seeing through events like this one. And that's what had happened to me also when I first met Steve Jobs, because the universe conspired and somehow we collided and had great conversations about his trip to India, in fact. It was about spirituality. And it was about, in April of 1974, when he traveled to northern India in the Himalayas, a place where I grew up, and he visited and he went on this pilgrimage of, spiritual adventure and a journey for enlightenment. And it was with his friend Daniel Kotke, who was one of the first employees at Apple. So it was really that journey of experimentation, of adventure, that he went to seek what is true, is your true self, to gain a level of enlightenment. And actually, in fact, that is what is alluded. That trip gave him clarity, because after his job as Atari, he went and actually then created Apple with the other Steve Wozniak. And what we really see, and in fact, one of his favorite books was Autobiography of a Yogi by Swami Paramahansa Yogananda, which was the only book he had on his iPad. And he would actually continually revise that. And it was the book given to everybody at his funeral too. What we're seeing is really the key trends that are shaping wellness and reconnection, because it's truly by disconnecting today. And we talk about digital detox, but I talk about it's more into moving into digital minimalism, but it's about how do we move from that state of true well-being and reconnect with a whole new level of enlightened being to that regard. And that's where tech can actually be used for the super good to help you with that. And it's all about how do these different trends converge to make that happen. And it's about balance. And that's really truly what we're talking about. It's that state of equilibrium. As my friend Lawrence here, who talks a lot about equilibrium, and we bring up all these different aspects of holistic being with us. We've seen stress, anxiety, depression, all rising so rapidly. And all that has led to a whole new culture of that 24/7, and I think that's been the awakening. And that's where what a lot of my career previously was looking at, how do we use all our five senses and integrate that with tech, and then elevate it to a new level so that we can actually integrate them and use them for a lot better sort of purpose to reconnect us with our true self. And we came up with, when I was heading innovation for Siemens mobile devices, we came up with a concept called the Zen phone at that time. And this is over 15 years ago now. And it was basically a spa phone, a wellness oasis, as we called it back then. And it was all about relaxation. And it was about bringing music, again, a universal language, to you through this paradigm, and using noise-canceling headphones, haptic ball interface. So the product promise was actually very powerful. And that's kind of what we visualized it as you can see here, at that time. So it was a concept device, but it manifested into multiple other products later in our product line. And what we'd really been working more was around the body, mind, and soul of design. And because, again, as Steve Jobs says, design is not what it looks and feels like, it's how it actually works. So my own journey then took me to, while I was working in the tech space, growing up more in the tech geek space, and then evolving further into that tech and meet spirituality. I was very, very fortunate to be presenting and honored to present to His Holiness Dalai Lama on this vision that I created about how tech can be used for really reconnecting us again. And as you can see here, it was all about how do we bring that, and what I presented to him, it was not about switching off your phone. It was about flipping it to a new mode. And I called it Bliss Mode at that time, which is something I've been evolving, and we continually are on that quest through many startups that I've been mentoring and working with on this space. And I'll talk a bit more about that also in a couple of minutes. So spirituality, as we've really seen, it's difficult to find happiness within ourselves, but it's impossible to find it anywhere else. So it's all about going within us. And this whole event, as you know, Awaken, it's all about that awakening from inside. And I think that's where it really starts. And if we can evolve and bring conscious tech that will awaken us truly from within us, what we need is tech to nudge us, to help us, to take us to that level. And eventually you need to let go of the tech. And I'll be talking a little bit more into that, because that's where I feel it's all about coming into a new state. So Bliss Mode, like I was saying, it's all about designing with soul. And it's all about bringing together this space of a new modality that we can bring to reconnect with ourselves. So one of the examples I'll give you of a startup that we incubated here in Sydney about 10 years ago now, called Relax VR. And what we created was an immersive relaxation device. And as you know, with virtual reality, you may know that it really impacts neuroplasticity. And you go through this amazing meditation experience with the voiceover and lovely music, a great multimedia of different experiences. It was a start of something very exciting. And we've seen many different things. And I'm sure if some of you have tried some of the Apple Vision Pro experiences, you would know what I'm talking about. And other experiences like Trip, which has also been very interesting, which is like digital psychedelics without any side effects. So one of the topics within the wellness tech that I've been very passionate about is neurotech. And neuroscience has really been proving so many different elements of how we can use our brain states and understand it, really measure ourselves, and then move to this new level. And that's where we've been evaluating and looking at, okay, how do we use the alpha, beta, delta, gamma waves, measure them? And we've been sort of visualizing them with tools like this one. And I was fortunate to be working with a company for the last 20 years called NeuroSky, where we started a full EEG electroencephalography reader, and being able to use that for multiple different applications in health and wellness, and getting people into flow states. So you've got attention and focus, and you've got relaxation and meditation. So when you get them moving together, you're getting into flow states. And that's where we created this lab, imagination lab, a thinking lab called iZone in India, as a tinkering lab, where we would take people through a full innovation sort of a journey in a workshop, and then seeing how more creative they are through those results. And we're really seeing that alpha priming working very strongly. So another great example of a device that I'm also an ambassador for is called Muse, which is a great meditation tool. I'm sure some of you might have tried that, and you would have seen tools obviously like Calm and Headspace and so forth, but measuring yourself with your brain waves and being able to use the different modalities as a total solution, what I call the 2P, or total user and product experience, which really comes out very nicely in a device like what Muse offers through the different bands. And the S band is one of the latest products. They've got a new version of that just recently launched. Then there's another great product called Flow Time, which also then helps you a lot with your understanding of your different brain waves and theta healing and gamma sort of moving really into that higher states of consciousness, as you can see here. And one of the great companies or really great startups that I've been involved with called Positive Prime, we brought in neurotech integration with them from a company out of Harvard Innovation Labs called BrainCo, and their product called Focus Calm, which was giving us a very simple single score of your focused and calm state. And so I think that's the power of how do we simplify and present technology in a very compelling user experience. So it's all about how do we build that true mind of the future. And we've seen examples like, Elon Musk, obviously with Neuralink, who you might have heard of, doing some interesting work across with 1/100th of the size of your human hair, injecting and basically doing a short surgery and being able to read, having almost 1,000 fibers reading into your brain and also writing into your brain. So there's a lot of research that has been done, and they've done experiments with pigs, with monkeys, and also the human trials were quite successful. So it's all about how it can be used in the greater good for rehab, for disability tech, and that's the space we're seeing neurotech evolving into, with the other devices which are really moving into that space. For example, like Apollo Neuro, Halo for neuroscience, which is kind of giving you, it's using transcranial direct current stimulation. So it's giving you very low current through your brain and being able to, through the right sort of elements, getting you into more creative states. And it's been used a lot in sports and other areas. Another quick example I want to give you is of another really interesting company who do a great amount of research from the HeartMath Institute, and they've got products like the HeartMath Inner Balance. And really, it's all about heart intelligence. And I think that's what I wanted to come to, because that's where we're seeing from AI moving into heart intelligence, into even natural intelligence further. So how we're seeing, we are all connected with the Earth's energetic fields. And the resonant frequency of the Earth's magnetic field is exactly the same as the human heart rhythm. And we're talking about the Schumann frequency here, the 7.83 hertz, if you know about that one. And that's where we really see how do you really tap into your power of your subconscious mind and the power of intuition, and really bring about that state of deeper consciousness hacking, as one may call it. And just play a quick little thing on if that works.
Can you hear me? Can you feel me? This is a story about your life and about new ways to see that we are all connected.
Just like electricity changed the outer world, art's going to change the inner world.
We can take charge of how we feel more than we may think.
It allows me to be present, centered, and focused.
I just find that deeper place in myself where I can feel that sense of love.
And as more people come together, it's going to draw in a whole new awareness.
But the heart really is an access point to our larger self that can bring in that intelligence of another dimension. So now we're starting to have a scientific understanding that these higher quality emotions that people have always associated with the heart really do affect the way the heart beats and the quality of the neural signals being sent to the brain, which it then interprets.
Heart and brain are in constant communication. The heart is doing most of the talking.
So yeah, there are 40,000 more neurons from the heart to the brain. And we're talking about this brain-heart coherence. And that we're really seeing that kind of heart-mind alchemy, as one may even call it, where we're talking about edge to edge, really heart to heart is something where I've been talking in the corporate world. We talk B2B, B2C, and I say first it should be about human to human or heart to heart. And I think that's the journey we're all, I think, very much into today. We've seen, also another great company, In Truth, and I think Nicole Gibson might be in the audience. She's arrived already. She can demo this really interesting device, because what we're doing here with this device is measuring emotional intelligence. And it's the first of its type, where we've got a very specialist algorithm developed by a great research team, which is really tapping deeper into your emotional states and giving you a dashboard of what your EQ is about, and really then giving you a deeper understanding of health. There are other devices like Apollo Neuro, which is also through vibration and frequency, helping you a lot more with different types of healing modalities to getting you into calm states and so forth. There are others like using PEMF products also, pulse electromagnetic field, like rhythm here that we're seeing. And what we're really seeing is devices which are emerging in many different ways to help us with vagal toning or vagus nerve stimulation. So your brain, heart, gut, brains are all, minds, I would say your heart brain, your head brain and your gut brain are all interconnected. And I think that's where we're really seeing how do we synchronize it and use the very conscious tech to take you to a new level. Another interesting organization I've been involved with out of India, a startup called Sickcare, which has really harnessed a lot of the ancient wisdom from all our Vedas and the various elements from Ayurveda and much more beyond that to integrate and really take us to a level of understanding of really understanding ourselves in many different ways. So I encourage you to download this app and give it a try, because it can give you some really interesting dashboard and diagnostics also. Some of the work we've been working on is future smart cities, and we've been looking at biophilic design. And my friend here with Jorgen sitting, we've been working a lot on interspace design for integrating biophilic and wellness technologies in smart homes and buildings. And we're really imbibing a lot of the learnings from Blue Zones. And I think most of you would probably know where Blue Zones are about. And I was sort of taken that to a new level. I've wrote a little article on longevity and future of Blue Zones. And it's really where we're moving that into that state of bliss mode and using conscious tech to evolve us, to create that Blue Zones within us. And if I may quote Tom, who might be here, about being in the coral color stage of the spiral dynamics, if you know that one. That's kind of what we're really seeing, what does it truly evolve into, where we're talking about conscious leaders and that true wisdom coming together. I was very fortunate to visit 3 of the Blue Zones, the previously stated ones, and this was in Costa Rica, which was really enlightening and uplifting. And I've really seen a lot of that, how nature truly plays such a key role in taking those further. And we've been envisioning a lot of the work around floating smart cities, so working on a few different fronts. In fact, in Tasmania, we have a concept that we've been working on a floating smart city on the port of Hobart. And I've been involved with an entity called Hubtropolis, and it's part of a much bigger overarching element called Masterminding Eden, which I encourage you to look at, because that's where we're really looking at full sustainable living for the future and a blueprint for humanity, where we're really putting health and wellness at the very core of it. You would have heard of the Sustainable Development Goals, so there are 17 of them, and we've been focusing a lot around SDG 3, good health and well-being, and this is one of the kind of concepts where we combined a lot of the different tech, like Heart Math in a Balance, the Muse S-Band, the Trip VR in Oculus Quest, Halo Sport, the Tesla suit, so all into sort of building a very conscious WellTech healing device of sorts. So what we're seeing is a lot of that integration happen to a whole new level now. And devices and tech like Somadome, another interesting company creating a meditation pod, which really adds color therapy. We add binaural beats and microcrystalline tiles and healing aura lights, all combined in this very interesting pod, which you can also experience at a place we have here called WellWorks. And another interesting meditation pod is OpenSeed, which is a 3D printed modular pod, which combines ambient sound, lighting, and aromatherapy. So I was talking about WellWorks. That's the place in Rosebery. If anybody's interested, you can have a chat with me later. We have a wellness collective of different devices and tools there, and also a co-working space with a community developing really nicely in that space. There have been some really cool other places around here. In fact, in Sydney, since most of you probably live here, there's Body WRL. There was a place called the Wellness Hotel, which is also very interesting. And I've just recently come back from Bali, and I've been associated for a few years with an entity called the Pyramids of Chi, which is full sound healing. And we've taken that to a kind of a new level with some scalar technology healing, scalar waves, which you might have heard of, which a dome that was recently launched just a month ago there at the Pyramids of Chi in Ubud in Bali. And we have a place here called Frequency Lab in Newtown, if anybody's interested in trying. What we've combined is these smart water beds, heated water beds with light, sound, and vibration, and with ancient sound healing with real instruments, and also digitization to give you a full holistic experience with sound healing. So yeah, encourage you to have a look at that. And there's a new dome that is being launched in Bali, in fact, at Pyramids of Chi, called the Amma Dome. Amma means mother or Gaia, and we're talking about a planetarium for your inner universe. It's really about exploring your higher consciousness. And what we're doing there is a full 360 dome, which has got a multi-projection system. So it's kind of virtual reality without wearing glasses. And vibrational beds with aromatherapy, and really giving you an inner world experience. So imagine your chakras that you can visualize and being able to see your state of, in a full 3D visual format. So we're moving from that place I was talking about, that VUCA world, into that new space of a new VUCA, which is about vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. And this again refers to what Tom had talked about in his talk about Game B. And we're talking about all these different states that we can measure through a peak performance algorithm that has been developed at NeuroSky to measure your skills of empathy, of mindfulness, of really getting into your imagination, and so forth. And these are skills that we've been talking through this paradigm of creative intelligence, because it's moving really from, no longer about, as you can see, the flips, moving from one to another, from needs to wants, from consumer to community, and story to a narrative, and so forth. So what we came up with was, I was very fortunate to be part of this amazing community that came together called Wise Mirror. And it really started from, I'm sure many of you have seen Black Mirror on Netflix, which is very powerful, but unfortunately it's too dystopian. And it really brings about, although the power of the technology, but it's very negative and leaves a very, impression of scare and fear out there. So we flipped from me to we, the topic, in fact, that Tom lovelyly talked about. So from dystopia to a utopia that we call Wetopia. So it's really about how do we move from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love, and from darkness to light, and so forth. So I wanted to show you that was the initial article I'd sort of written on it, which you can see on LinkedIn. But those are the 13 traits that we talk about at Wise Mirror. So we really talk about deep empathy, imagination, unconditional love, and really those aspects where we really talk about the lot more humane, soft elements, and taking us to that state of being in that state of, higher enlightened self. So I wanted to show you a quick video that we created a while ago.
Doing most? How valuable is it for you? How valuable is it for others? What if we were to tell you that this is all you need to do to flourish? The value you bring to the world, your purpose, your passion. This simple idea transforms the current economic model and will trigger a renaissance in society, building on value creation instead of wealth accumulation. The world of today is divided in regions, religions, and ideologies. Today's politics, economics, markets, and media are based on financial competition and scarcity. In this new world, currency is no longer created by printing machines in a building, but by people who create value as a means of prosperity. The value grows manyfold as it is shared. Instead of a money multiplier, we have a value multiplier. Naturally, currencies of love, empathy, and curiosity will prevail and bring out what humankind stands for. Imagination will be the superpower we can all tap to energize a new level of collaboration to a state of coherence. People, we are all motivated to create more harmony and value in the world, because that's what elevates our spirit. That's what brings meaning to our lives. Creating new markets of value is our personal way to celebrate life, unlocking meaning, bliss, and happiness. Today's technology not only enables people to connect with each other, but also with their inner selves, unlocking synergies and unseen creativity. More collaboration to create solutions for global problems such as climate change and easily accessible smart tech. Wellness wearables that are preventative rather than reactive, aggressive treatments for illness and cancer. Come join us on this transmedia journey at White Mirror. Much more than a movement, it is a shared philosophy with an inclusive, open and collaborative mindset as we flip from me to we and build a utopia we call Wetopia for all, with guidance and alignment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. A new iconic dawn of personal empowerment and freedoms outperform and become the new economic drivers of society.
Yeah, so we also created a comic book actually with the Museum of the Future. So really building a lot more of that positive elements. I'm just going to skim through because I'm running a bit short on time. So we've been looking at how nature retreats and multiple different elements like Shinrin-yoku plays such a key role. We've seen community become such a key part, connection and community. And that's where we've seen great, wisdom, health, wise mirror, humans for good, which I know some of my friends have also been part of, and Light DAO and great communities that have evolved around the world. And I personally took a lot of learning from this space called Sacred Sites, which this gentleman, Martin Gray, who traveled the world and described not the historical significance, but the energy of places around the world. And sort of we, being involved with some of the things at Burning Man, for example. In 2020, I was involved speaking there in virtual reality. We ran a whole panel discussion there. More recently, I just got back from Bali, from a beautiful place, really what we call, a few of us have been working on this concept called Lanyakea, which is heaven on earth in Hawaiian. And we've been talking about, and I've really felt that that was right here in front of me, doing this amazing Future Shapers workshop on social impact lab that we had there. And it's something which Tom Cronin had also just mentioned, and we're both part of this great location for a future retreat. So if anybody wants to look at sort of more high-end retreats, we have an amazing location called Entire, and I had a very quick video of that.
I'm a haven of spirituality, a sanctuary nestled within the enchanting scenery of Nusa Penida's jewel. I'm embraced by the elements. Your feet will reconnect you to the ground and guide you through your journey. If you listen closely, you can hear your surroundings whisper to you the symphony of your soul. Your mind and body will be at peace with nature when indulging in sustainable luxury.
So, yeah, it's how do we use nature's intelligence? I think that's where it's really coming to, and build as part of what we're talking about, an awakened wise intelligence, which is what we see AI to AGI, which is the general intelligence, to this new form called AWI. And to that effect, we've been talking about a SDG 18 in Wise Mirror, which is all about human agency, and about a term called coheartability, about connected humane consciousness. And I think everything that we're witnessing here in this amazing event, it's very interrelated to that. So I just want to say that the most exciting breakthroughs, and quote John Nesbitt, will not happen because of technology. It's because of an expanding concept of being human. And just a final few takeaways. I'll just very quickly sort of let you have a glance of that. But essentially what I'm saying is that it's all about how do we use technology in a lot more conscious way and use nature and integrate all that multimodal aspects of embracing this new paradigm and bring about this awakened element of our being in there. So if anybody wants to, I've got various articles which elaborate a lot deeper into all these different areas. If you want to take a photo of the right side, the LinkedIn thing, you'll see all my articles there, which is around longevity and blue zones, future of blue zones, and Bliss Mode, and about nature is the ultimate technology, and the most recent one about Hospital of the Future, which is really a wellness center integration with hyper-personalized, holistic well-being integrated in there. So, and also then I also had an article which was in the Equilibrium magazine that my friend Lawrence published a while ago. So I just want to end quoting the Mahatma: true innovation happens when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Thank you very much. If there's any questions or something, I'm happy to. Do we have much time? Or yep, maybe a couple of questions. Yep, yep. There's one there. Just maybe take a mic. This mic's coming. Yep. Yep. Sorry.
I can see a lot of the wellness centres and how they would help human consciousness evolve and bring us to a different state. I can also see a lot of money being made by some of these inventions, and that's all good and well.
Sure.
But what are these organisations doing to give people access that can't afford the access, whether it's people with fighting addiction and homelessness and, you know, either living in a continent where they don't even have food or clean water. So as a human consciousness and, you know, being part of the planet, what are we doing for the rest of them that can't have access?
What a great question. Amazing. Thank you. And I think, I didn't really touch on that aspect because that was my awakening when I lived in India and Africa and a few of the emerging markets, working on the base of the pyramid to really look at how do you bring things more accessible, affordable for people who really cannot afford. And we worked on a tablet called Akash, which was bringing education. And with the order of a couple of 100 million units in India, for example, it was a game changer for digital education. So I think when we look at wellness tools and conscious tech, this is one of the areas where we're seeing a plethora of tech across the board. A lot of it can be, there is also a lot more movement towards more accessible and affordable devices and tech and solutions. So I think definitely we need to focus on that entry level aspect and what can we provide as simple tools. And I think we've already seen a lot of wearable tech, which is very affordable. It's how do we integrate the right elements of conscious elements to it is what matters. And I think that's where we're seeing some awakened startups, B Corps, and movements that are happening out there who are really proliferating that know-how and that movement. So totally agree with you. Is there someone else? So, yeah. Yeah, another question. So, yeah.
Is there anyone doing any research with helping people that suffer addiction and some of the psychiatric illnesses that might be able to have assistance with any of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of efficacy work happening with, especially in the neurotech space. We've seen a lot of, looking at psychology, psychiatry, and that sort of space of getting into the mind and seeing how effective are certain tools or, understanding really of our true makeup and looking at how, say, autism or, Parkinson's or all these different and, even disabilities to a level which in fact become super abilities in some other regard, how they're actually being amplified also in some ways. So there's also a very positive angle of that I see coming out of how we're flipping and seeing people who have, who can enhance certain sensoric capabilities to become super abilities in many regards. So there is research for sure in that regard happening. And I would say even in neurotech, we've seen elements of telepathy and all these different aspects coming together. In fact, we showcased something a couple of years ago from UTS, which I've been involved with at South by Southwest here, to really look at with using an integrative AI to provide a forecast of what somebody's thinking of. So pretty much getting a brain dump of what you're thinking on a screen. Bob?
Thank you, Anuraj. Not so much of a question for yourself, but just to answer that lady question. So today there was and Tom presented as well, levels of evolution as an example. And so I've just come back from Sri Lanka. I'm Sri Lankan born. And so there's a comedian who talks about something happens as we go into the West, become more affluent, we lose community, right? So in Sri Lanka, they still have a lot of organic food, even though their GDP is very low. So these tools are used to help us connect back to ancient ways. So they have different issues. But I call it like the Tesla effect, because Tesla started with a high end, and then made it more accessible. So it has to start somewhere to then do that. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you. Right. I think if there's no more questions, happy to catch up with anybody. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, I've got one.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, one more.
Yeah.
The one big issue is about data, because I've used Muse, and who owns that data, right? So has that been considered as well?
No, it's a great point. I mean, I think most organizations who, like Aura Ring and others, they obviously are owning the data to an extent, but I think it's being made available. Obviously, it's your data, so you're the rightful owner of it, but they are, getting your permission to use it. So it's how I think it's that smart opt-in and opt-out elements that are being part of the, I would say the next level of understanding that is being created by more conscious startups even right now, and saying, how do we, put the data back in the hands of the real owners and the users? So I think it's a very valid point, because they have been traditionally, we've seen Facebooks, we've seen the whole effect from the social media, how the data's been used, misused in so many ways. So yeah, it's a very valid point, and I think moving forward, people are awakening to a new level of how do we be more conscious about where the data resides and how it's being used. Because it's a lot of multimodal data, and it's all how it all comes together, because data is the new oil. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Did you have a question, sorry? Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, sure.
Final question?
Yep. What's that? Sorry.
I just wanted to ask about, my name's Danae, thanks for your talk, it's really interesting.
Sorry, yeah.
But I just wanted to ask about storage of data, the power it takes. I've heard it draws a lot of energy and to store the sort of data that we need for AI. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the data centers are a big, they consume a lot of electricity. So you're right. I mean, that's where we're looking at how do we use renewables, how do we bring a more sustainable model for future data centers. And I have some friends who are working on some of these paradigms where we're building in this future smart city approach on how, because like Google is already using, I don't know what fraction it is, but quite a big sizable proportion of the global electricity supply. So very true. It's how do we, how do we bring that approach of bringing the energy from the right sources and make it more sustainable and approachable. And I think they're getting more efficient. It's just like your mobile phones in the early days. They were drawing a lot of electricity, and now they're getting a lot more, power consumption has become a lot more efficient. Similar thing we're going through with data centers and the data storage. You're right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.